Hey guys, Muncheez here, and today we're going to go over Akkan Gate 2. I'm going to use hard as a baseline, and then I'll mark the differences out from normal. But this fight, the only thing that's different is the skull keep away mechanic. So I'll go over it when we get to it. But as far as items go, you want to bring dart grenades if you're DPS, atropines, time stops, or sacred charms, depending on what you guys are having trouble with. And everyone brings destruction bombs besides the two people who are bringing corrosive bombs. And generally, the supports bring the corrosive bombs. You'll have a Coro 1 and a Coro 2. And you'll have to bring two people. One is bringing camo or stealth robes, and then another one is also going to bring a camo or a stealth robe. And this makes it a lot easier to do the hot potato phases. It makes it fairly easy, and you don't have to keep passing the ball around. It just makes it twice as easy. So we'll bring two people with stealth robes. Generally, I think in this party I'm also running it, so I can kind of demonstrate how to do it. So let's get inside. So he's always going to spawn in this top right corner here, and a general rule of thumb when you're doing this fight is just stay behind him as best as you can. So every time he's, as you can see, like just in front of him is a terrible, terrible place to stand. So just stay behind him, and generally you'll be okay for, I want to say 90% of the fight. So before the first football at like 160 at the beginning, I don't know what bar he does this at, but he does it fairly quickly from the beginning of the fight. He'll teleport to the middle and he'll spawn a bunch of tentacles and give himself like a poison shield where he takes reduced damage. So all you gotta do is kill all these tentacles and just wait for the shield to fall off, and you can continue DPSing. And if you're a support, you can just continuously build meter off of him even though he has the shield. Okay, so this actually worked out pretty well. I'm going to go over a couple of things here. The first thing is you see this ball jumping to me. It's going to leave a debuff on my feet. So after the first little cutscene, you'll enter inside the first football phase, and throughout the whole fight, someone's going to have this debuff on them, and what it does is it gradually raises your plague meter, and when the time runs out, it'll jump to the next closest person. So during the fight, if you see someone who has really high meter and you have this under your feet, try your best not to be anywhere near that person. And just kind of like danger ping, do whatever you need. But how it works is it raises your meter while it's under your feet, and it'll jump to the person closest to you once the debuff expires. Now, if you are cloaking in the football phase, you pop your cloak before you pick this up. So what you do is you want to wait for it just about to get to you, pop the cloak, hit G to pick it up, and just run away. And what this does is it just makes it so he doesn't follow you immediately and turn. As you can see, he's still running down as I am going straight to the left. If you don't do this, he'll track you like a homing missile, and he'll just stay on you the whole time. So if you do have to do this and you don't have a cloak, just keep passing the ball, run for like maybe a few seconds, pass the ball to the next teammate, and so on and so forth. So say you lose a cloak or something like that, you're going to have to do this. But for the most part, all you do is hit the cloak before you pick it up, and you can run pretty much freely and just kill a whole bunch of time. So in hard mode, everyone kind of goes to 3x+1's position for the sole reason of these phantoms that spawn, and you have to counter them. So if someone misses the counter, because sometimes you get a pool, and you have to drop the pools outside, so you can't counter and drop the pool outside. So generally what people will do, if they miss the counter at their position, they'll drop like a danger ping. So if you hear a danger ping or anything like that during this phase, these things move in an X pattern. No matter which one that misses, the spots at 6, 12, 3, and 9 are always going to be safe. So at the top, on the bottom, and on the two sides, they'll always be safe. So if someone misses a counter, try and get to one of these spots. Generally, whichever one you're closest to. Now, once your stealth robe runs out, it's going to start following you. So what you're going to do is you're going to toss it to the second stealth robe guy. The second stealth robe guy is going to do the exact same thing you did, but on the opposite side of the map. So just some important things to remember throughout this whole thing. People are going to get pools under their feet. And before that debuff expires, you want to get them out on the edge of the map. Feel free to double up or whatever. Just make sure you get out of it when it drops. And if you are the second cloak and you get a pool, one of these giant green fogs under your feet before you're about to pick it up, ask for help and make sure someone else can pick up the skull, because you need to drop the pools outside. It's very important for the first time to drop it outside, because these pools stay over in the second time he does this mechanic. So if you're cloaking and you have to pick it up and you get a pool under your feet, don't try to pick it up with the pool under your feet. Just ping for help, ask for help, do whatever you gotta do. Someone will pick it up, hold it long enough for you to drop the pool outside, come back, pick it up, and you should be fine. And once you've done this enough and you know that enough time has elapsed, if you're the second cloak, you can just feel free to toss the skull on the side of the map and you'll be perfectly okay. Now, this Medusa pattern he does actually can stop awakenings, so be careful when he does it. All you gotta do is just look away from him. And pretty much the whole fight is just his normal attack patterns, and he'll start doing random things like these explosions. He doesn't do anything too crazy, so once he enters 140, he's going to drop this giant red circle in the middle, and he's going to eventually do like a death slash and try and reap somebody. So there's always a really high chance when he enters these phases that he's going to do a counter, and pretty much just try not to counter him in the middle if he starts with one, because your back attackers will get mad. The only other thing to remember is once he teleports, he'll kind of like fade out and disappear. Just stay away from his front side, or just get as far away as possible from him just to be extra safe if you want. And the only other thing to watch out for is there's 2 rings that explode either inside or outside while you're doing this. So as you can see, he just did the reap. He didn't get anyone, so that's good. And after that, it's just business as usual. He'll go back to his regular attack patterns. Now, the next mechanic is going to be the 110 mechanic, which is the lantern mechanic. I'll actually leave a video in the description below that I made specifically for this, and it's kind of more in-depth and in detail. But for the most part, when you get this, you want to be behind him. So when he does this, one of the skulls is going to glow. So whichever one glows, you move opposite to it. And the goal is to just stay in his shadow and keep up with the skulls. Now, in full time, this kind of happens a lot faster, actually, than you would think it does. But just be ready to move exactly when you stop. Just be ready to move again. He'll always do a total of 360 degrees worth of turns. So, for example, he'll do like 290s and then a 180. And you don't want to stand directly on top of the boss because this is a very unstable mechanic. Sometimes you'll just get petrified for absolutely no reason, and you'll just be molding, and it's fine. It happens to probably mostly, I want to say probably like 99% of people. And he doesn't always go on the middle of the map to do this. He can do this mechanic anywhere. He can face any direction. And the important thing to know is just to stay behind him when he does this mechanic to start. And the only warning I have about this is for the people who want to move like ahead of time. You can move ahead of time, but sometimes he'll, depending on which way he's facing and how he's feeling that day, I guess, sometimes he'll just turn slower. And if you are making it a habit to move faster than you need to, you'll just end up being petrified. But like I said earlier, I do have another video just for this. So if you're still struggling with this, I recommend watching the video. I'll leave it in the link below. But this mechanic is very, very unstable, because even if you do it correctly and you feel like you've done it correctly, it'll sometimes still petrify you. It's kind of frustrating at first, but sometimes when it just happens, it happens. And it's not a big deal as long as not everyone's getting petrified, because it's very easy to kill this boss with maybe like 6 people. So if you lose 1 or 2 along the way, it's not a big deal. Unless like you're a support or something, because that's a lot of damage lost. But yeah, just try your best, practice it, and you should be okay once you get the hang of it. And here are 2 of the most greedy DPS patterns. So when you get all these X's, there's going to be some people without the X on them. That is a lot of free damage for you, so just go ahead and go ham on the boss. And another pattern he does is the exploding pie. So you find the pie that is not exploding, and this is another great damage window phase. Now at 85, he's going to do the second, like the reap. So this is where if you have the thyrane and you want to use the extra thyrane or the hidden thyrane, you use it right now when he reappears, and it'll stun him and you'll have plenty of time to deal extra damage to him. But for the most part, from here on out, the fight is just like a rinse and repeat. You just do the same thing again. And he's going to do this 1 more time, I believe, once he gets closer to 0. So he does this a total of 3 times in this fight. So it's always the same. He has a very high chance to do a counterattack, and just watch out for the exploding rings, and watch out for when he disappears and tries to reap somebody. So this mechanic actually catches a lot of people by surprise sometimes, but it's kind of like 2 Vicus mechanics put together, the lasers plus the purple orb. So what he's going to do is he's going to spawn 2 people with safe zones around them that'll eventually turn into a bomb. Now, if you have a laser, try your best to keep the lasers away from the guys with the safe zones and try and stay mobile while you have it so as to not get hit by it and get knocked down by yourself. These are extremely dangerous if you don't have an ability to get up as well, so just be very careful with these. And after a short moment, the guys with the safe zones will be safe inside of those circles, and then it'll drop 2 very large AoEs. So you either want to be together, as they were in our run, or you want to be on far opposite sides. But it's generally safe if you have no idea where to go, just run them out to the edges. But make sure you ping in the direction that you are going to drop them in. But for the most part, that's the whole fight, and you just want to push them as fast as you can. So that's why I've recommended bringing dart grenades. A lot of groups bring a lot of dart grenades, so you can push them really quick, so you can get less of these mechanics, because you want this mechanic as little as possible, because every time he does it, because of the inconsistency of this mechanic, it gives a chance of someone dying. So we actually had people get petrified here ourselves, and they were moving with the group, and they still got petrified. So it's just inconsistent, and you just want as little of them as possible. It's also important to note, if someone does get caught by it, just get away from them, because he does this giant AoE slash on them. The only other normal attack pattern I want to go over is this kind of, he does like an X with his scythe, and then he'll open like a red portal. And if you see this giant red portal, as you can see, everyone's like spam danger pinging. He spawns like these lasers, and these lasers hurt a lot. So if you're dealing with this, just get away from him, because these lasers will spawn, and just stand nowhere near them. Just get away. They hurt a lot. So just be careful of this attack pattern when you're doing this fight. Now, around 53 or so, he's going to do the second skull football deal, or hot potato, or whatever you want to call it. So the only difference between this one and the first one is that the pools that you drop the first time are going to be on the map. So just be careful when you're doing this. There's going to be more pools on the map. That's why I recommend, if you can at the beginning, try to double up and, keep the pools as like condensed as possible. But if you can't do that, it's fine. Just learn how to maneuver in here as best as you can. It doesn't take too much practice, but you do have to get used to it, especially if people drop them by accident in the middle of the ring. So kind of take note of where the football's running and so on and so forth, as to not path yourself through these, because they're pretty dangerous. They'll fill your meter, they'll do a bunch of damage, and you'll probably end up getting feared. It's like a huge chain CC issue. But from this point on, the main goal, he's going to do one more red phase where he'll do the death scythe deal and try to execute someone. He'll do that one more time, and you'll enter the destruction phase. Now, as far as the destruction phase goes, after he's at 0 bars, he'll enter a short cutscene, and you will begin the last part of the fight. As far as where to stand, Party 1 generally does 3x, and Party 2 does 3x plus 1. So the first Koro, as soon as the destruction deal appears, just throw the Koro on the boss. And once that one runs out, Koro 2 goes, but for the most part, he dies pretty quickly, depending on how many people you have alive at this point. So what you want to do is prioritize focusing on the counters. So if you see a counter near you or whatever, try and get the counter and then destruct the boss. So the priority is focus on the counters and throw a destruction spell on the boss anytime you get it. And also, if you're playing a support, you can focus on healing a lot more, because you don't have to do any damage here. So you don't have to damage buff or anything. So if you're playing like a bard or an artist, you can prioritize healing the group, because sometimes a lot of damage does go out because someone will get hit by an AoE or something, or get tapped outside by the fog. So this ring outside, if you step into it, generally, for the most part, guarantees it's going to kill you. And as far as these tentacles go, do your best to get rid of them. If you have time, you can't do any damage to the boss. So if all your destruction spells are down and there's no counters out on the map or anything, just throw like a couple of spells on top of the tentacles, or like an attack or two. Generally, they'll die in like 1 or 2 hits. But for the most part, all you got to do is focus on countering, and what that does is make it so it's not as dangerous, and it fills the meter up for Thyrane. So if you need to do 2 Thyranes, it helps a lot. And the only other thing is, like, if you miss a counter, these ghouls do the same thing as the ones inside the football deal. They will grab someone and drag them outside of the map to where the AoE hurts them. So if you do miss a counter, just make sure you danger ping. Do it like a couple, 2 or 3 times, just to bring attention. Be like, hey, I missed a counter over here. And if you're standing on the opposite side of that ping, then you're going to want to move away from that spot. But yeah, that's pretty much it for Akkan Gate 2. This is probably the easiest gate out of the 3, in my opinion. But I hope this guide kind of helps you guys. And if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns about this gate, feel free to leave it below. And once again, I'm going to leave the video for the lantern mechanic in the description below. So I highly recommend watching that one, because that mechanic is the only thing that's, I don't even want to say difficult, but it's the most inconsistent mechanic in this gate. But other than that, I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day, evening, wherever you guys are at. And thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.